Hello, welcome back to the GC Diaries. Full transparency, I have been avoiding making this video. I have been very anxious about it. I can feel the imposter syndrome setting in, this need for perfection, and it's kind of just prevented me from doing the thing. But I told my accountability buddy that I would have this video up today, and so we are acknowledging the anxiety, we are accepting it, and we are doing the thing anyway, or at least attempting to. I'm trying to get better with the idea of like making the thing exist first and then making the thing good later. Like, it can't be good if it doesn't exist. And so I feel like that's the first hurdle that I'm trying to get over. So if any of you have been anxiously awaiting this video or eagerly awaiting this video, I do apologize for the delay. But yeah, today we are going to talk about how I found informational interviews, pretty much. So when you apply, and you're going to have pretty much like one of the main categories on your CV or your resume is going to be genetic counseling exposure, or like exposure to the field. And within that category, you'll have a bunch of subcategories that can be things like shadowing, informational interviews, webinars, courses, all these kind of things that just kind of prove that you know about the field, that you've spent time learning about it, talking to people within it, to really get a sense of if this is the right field for you and the right career for you, and to also demonstrate, just to demonstrate that like you're interested and you care about learning more and that you have sought out more knowledge and sought out more connections with other people. It's a pretty big category. And so I didn't actually end up getting any shadowing. I've heard that that's pretty normal. I think it's really rare and really difficult to get shadowing for genetic counseling due to a bunch of like hospital policies and like privacy rights and things like that. So there's no shame. I got into school without it. There are lots of people that got into school without it. There's also people that had shadowing, and it's great exposure, great experience. It's just really any field. It's really cool to be able to shadow somebody in the field. So that's kind of like the top. Like if you can get shadowing, that's the ideal. And then if you can't get shadowing, which many people like myself can't, then the like next thing on that category would be informational interviews. So I can't follow you around while you do your job, but I can set up a phone call or a video chat or meet for coffee and ask you about your day, ask you about what you do on a regular basis, what your different roles are, things you like or don't like about the field. And so I can still kind of get that perspective directly from the source, even if I'm not observing like them in action kind of thing. So shadowing's hard. Informational interviews, totally reasonable, totally expected. And so I'm going to help you figure out how to do that, because it can definitely be a little intimidating at first. And the first time I applied, that was definitely something that I struggled with and something that I really wanted to improve upon as a reapplicant, and I did improve upon it, so I'm just going to help you do the same. So the two main sources that I use to find my informational interviews are going to consist of the Gene Pool Discord page and then the NSGC website. So for those of you that are not familiar, Discord's basically just like a social media platform kind of, where you can connect and talk with other people, and they can do like really cool things with like subcategories and organizing different, I don't even know what you would like necessarily call it, but I have pulled up on my webpage on my laptop right now the Gene Pool Discord server essentially. And so for those who aren't familiar, this is the Discord site. I have like the different communities I'm a part of on the left here. I'm currently in Gene Pool. And so here we go, Gene Pool, a genetic counseling community. And so I've predominantly been using the like applicant side of Gene Pool, so things like asking questions about applications, asking for feedback on resumes and interview tips and what to wear for different things and how to rank programs. Like they have a bunch of that. But then I think there's also a lot of genetic counselors that are part of this that use it for networking and the job search and connecting with others in the field or talking about new research. And the cool thing about Discord is you can kind of like, you get access to different channels based on what roles you select. And so since I was just an applicant predominantly when using this, like I didn't see any of that. And then the genetic counselors that are in it aren't going to see, like they don't have to see all of the applicant side of things. So like that's pretty cool. That's just like a pitch. You should definitely, if you are interested in genetic counseling, I would highly recommend getting a Discord account. It's, free, just sign up and make an account and joining this community. Super helpful. But again, the reason that we're here is to find informational interviews. So the way that this works within the gene pool Discord page is super cool. So they're going to have, if you scroll down on the left here through all their different like sub pages, you're going to get to an area that says Networking Hub. And then within the Networking Hub is going to be a directory page. So you can click on this, and basically anybody that is in this community, anybody that's part of this Discord page, can elect to be added to the directory. And so they'll say what like their username is, different topics they can speak on, things like that. But it's predominantly used, a lot of times it's used for students to connect with people in the fields or with other students that they might have questions about the schools that they attend, things like that. And so when you look at the directory, you'll see that they've put like their name, what program they went to, what their graduation year was, specialties, topics that you're willing or able to speak about. And so then they'll list a bunch of things, whether this is like going to school with a fiance, or being a 4-time reapplicant, or being part of a minority, not speaking English as a first language, being part of the LGBTQI plus community, like whatever they might be able to attest to that somebody might need help with or might want to learn more about. They'll list that there. And then they'll also, here are like some of the important things. Are you willing to do informational interviews? And are you willing to review application materials? So in addition to like learning more about the fields, the directory, people can also like offer to be put on there if they want to help people with their personal statements or with their CV or things like that. So this is a super, super useful like all-in-one page to find a bunch of help for a bunch of different things. But the way that I was using it when I was searching for my informational interviews is I was trying to find people in the fields currently practicing. So the directory is also going to have a lot of students that are currently in school that can help you with application materials and stuff. But at least for like the purposes that I was using, those weren't really the helpful ones. And so as I was going through the directory, the way that I was kind of breaking it down is I was starting with like my two my two main like non-negotiables for whether or not this might be somebody that I want to contact is what their graduation year was, and if they were open to if they were willing to do informational interviews. So I think at the time I was doing this, I was trying to find anyone with a graduation year including or before 2023. Because basically that would tell me that like they've already graduated, they've had a year or so to hopefully find a job and or have maybe been practicing for at least a year. If their graduation year was more like 2025, 2026, I know that they were either still a student or haven't had a chance to really enter the job market yet, and so I wouldn't be able to ask them like about their day-to-day life. I wouldn't be able to get like a real informational interview with a genetic counselor yet. And then also, I'm not going to be able to get an informational interview if they say that they're not willing to do that. So it was really, it was these two looking for what the graduation year was and if they were willing to do informational interviews. And so what I did is one day, I sat on my phone. You can use Discord on the website. They have a mobile app. They have a like laptop app. I sat on my phone on my mobile Discord app. I went to the directory and I literally spent like a good hour. I don't want to exaggerate. I think it was like an hour. And I just scrolled through the directory, and anybody that had that graduation year, including or prior to 2023, and had that they were willing to do informational interviews, I literally went and I took a screenshot of their like that little blurb that they had. And so I did that, and you can see like I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. There's a lot in here, and there's a lot that are students. There's a lot that are practicing. There's some that say that they're not open to student contact. Maybe they're really busy right now or things like that. And literally, like you can see, I'm still scrolling. I just scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. And anytime I saw anybody that matched those two categories, I took a screenshot. Looked, took a screenshot. Looked, took a screenshot. Looked, took a screenshot, etc., etc. I'm still scrolling. I want to just prove to you. And then yeah, as you get towards the end, it's going to be more students. Because once you get into a program, you can still offer to be part of the directory to help other people with applications and stuff. So I did that. And then I created in my phone, I'm recording with my phone, so I can't like look at it, but I'll put up the little like screen record thing. I basically had like a folder in my camera roll that was like Gene Pool, Discord, GC contacts, or GC directory or something like that, where I had all of these screenshots. And then I slowly went through and I started organizing them by what their specialty was, by what kind of topics they were able to talk about, and trying to narrow down who I wanted to contact and what order I wanted to contact, just as a way to organize. And so like I had the I had the folder in my camera roll, And then I used Notion. You could do this on Google Docs or whatever. I feel like I want to be a Notion user because I feel like it's cool, but there's just such a huge learning curve that I use it for some things, but not a lot. But for this one, I happened to use it. And so what I ended up doing is I had my camera roll, right? And I went through all of those screenshots that I took, and I started organizing them into specialties. And I was listing them here under my cold messages for GCs. I had my Discord category, and then I had... So you'll learn, if you haven't already, that there's pretty much three main, there's the big three specialties for genetic counseling. You're going to have... Sorry, I hear an ice cream truck. I got distracted. Prenatal, pediatrics, and cancer. Those are going to be your big three. And then, especially as the field's evolving and new things are happening, you're getting a bunch of cool, specialties, or non-traditional specialties, so things like laboratory, cardio, nutrition, pharmacology, things like that. And so there's kind of two things you want to be thinking about as you're trying to build your CV and get these informational interviews. One, there's the amount. You want to get a lot of informational interviews, you want to talk to a lot of people, one, to just learn about the field, and then also to add it to the CV, to just show that you've done the work and that you've talked to these people. But it's not just about how many you have, it's also about the diversity of how many you have. If you're only talking to cancer genetic counselors, or if you're only talking to pediatric genetic counselors, you're only getting a view of this one small, it's not small, but this one part of the field. And so what I did was I took all the screenshots that I had, and then I split them into the big three categories, and then I also had, I at the time called it unique. I've heard it more commonly referred to as non-traditional or specialty, other kinds of specialties besides the big three. So this way I can make sure that I was talking to a bunch of different genetic counselors about a bunch of different specialties and really getting a good overview of what the field and the careers could look like. Because a day-to-day as a prenatal genetic counselor could look very different than the day-to-day of a laboratory genetic counselor, which could look very different of a cancer counselor, and so on and so forth. And it also helps you start to maybe think about what kind of specialties you might like and give you an idea. I did have, in my interviews with schools, I did have a couple that asked, based on what you know about the field, what kind of specialties are you drawn to? And so it was really cool to, be able to pull from the informational interviews that I had. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't, dedicate time ahead of time to making sure that I had the diversity. So that's that. So now if you look at how I have this broken down, so I have all my categories, and then I basically just took the information that was from the GC directory and kind of summarized it here. So I had, for example, Maddie P. I had what her specialties that that Maddie listed on the directory. I also had what school they were from. I forgot about that. So in addition to the year that they graduated, their willingness to do informational interviews, and then their different specialties, I was also looking maybe for people that had graduated from schools I was thinking about attending. So attending, that sounds very pretentious. Schools that I was thinking about applying to. So I ended up applying to Kane. And so it was cool. So in addition to learning about prenatal and genetic counseling from Maddie, I was also able to learn a little bit about the Kane program. So that's kind of how you can kind of double dip and get a bunch of information all at once. So I have that written down. And then I kept track of when I sent them a message asking if I could interview you, and then also who I've interviewed. And this just helped me organize, keep track, make sure that I wasn't missing anybody, also making sure that I wasn't bothering people more than once. So cold messaging can be kind of intimidating at first, and so I am happy to just pull these up and share exactly what I wrote. But before that, we're using Discord right now. Something that I didn't know that I wish I had when using Discord as a way to find informational interviews was that a lot of times in the settings, Discord doesn't send you a notification for messages from people that you're not friends with. So what was happening is I was sending a lot of these messages from the directory, people who said that they were willing to do informational interviews. I was reaching out and I wasn't hearing back from a lot of them, or it was taking weeks to hear back. And so I finally learned, because somebody was I guess, forthcoming enough or nice enough, or they might not even, like, meant it intentionally, but someone, like, got back to my message several weeks after the fact and, like, profusely apologized. They're like, I'm so sorry, like, Discord didn't notify me because we're not friends, like, I just saw this now. And that's when it started to, like, click in my mind, like, oh, it's not that, like, they don't want to talk to me, it's not that they're, like, super busy or that they feel bothered that I asked, it's, like, they literally just didn't get the notification. And so what I would do differently, and what I suggest that you guys do, is when you are thinking about reaching out to somebody within this Discord community, I would, I guess, like, request to be their friend first, and then send them that message. This way, they will definitely get the notification that so-and-so requested to be your friend, or I don't know what it's, like, what the terminology is with Discord, but they'll see that notification, most likely see that you're part of the gene pool community, accept the friend request, and then they'll see the notification, or maybe even if they don't, like, accept it right away, they'll be able to see, like, oh, they reached out because they want to talk and have an informational interview. And I think that that might, like, speed up or just kind of make the process go a little smoother. I feel like I wasn't getting as many interviews as quickly as I wanted to because of this delay where it was just, wasn't hearing back, or I wasn't hearing back for weeks at a time. And I think had I known that sooner and acted about, like, requesting to be friends, that might have made things more efficient. So that's my recommendation for you. But yeah, so as far as, like, what do you say? How do you do this? So, I wonder if I can make this bigger just so it's easier to read for a second. Okay, yeah. So I said, here we go. Ooh, sorry, trying to highlight. Okay, yeah, that works. So, hi, Maddie. Very enthusiastic. I saw on the gene pool directory that you're willing to do informational interviews, and I would love to chat with you about your journey and specialties. I'm still building on my understanding of prenatal, and your post-mortem forensic work sounds so fascinating. If you have the time and capacity, would you be open to a quick conversation with me sometime in the next couple weeks? If now isn't a good time, totally understand. I'm more than happy to reach back after summer when things might have calmed down. Thanks in advance for your time. So, you can create your own message, but basically it's like a hi, introduction, preface, like, I saw that you were open to interviews, and then I kind of tried to go on what their specialties were, or when they have that, like, topics I'm willing to talk about, I tried to pull out the things that I was interested, so it wasn't just, like, a generic, like, I didn't send everybody the same message. I, like, really was like, here's why I specifically want to talk to you, Maddie. And then I like the whole, if you have time and capacity, because, like, people are busy and have lives, and especially if they're practicing genetic counselors, they might have a really packed schedule, or maybe have other, like, things happening in their personal life, and I think that I also just have a people-pleasing tendency and always feel like a burden for asking for help, and so I feel like I had to throw that in there. But if you're more confident and strong-willed than I am, you may or may not want to include that. And then I gave them an out, so yeah, I think I was sending these in, like, maybe, like, March-ish or April, and then I was like, hey, if, like, now's good, and I'll reach back in a couple months after summer, we can try again then, and then, yeah, just thanking them in advance. So that's, like, basically the general way that I approached. And so I had, like, I kind of used this as, like a template, and then I would add in the specific details about each person. And so I created all of those. Let me see if I can shift this back over here. And so, yeah, so I tried to, I think at first I was kind of sending, like, 3 messages at a time. So I would send, like, a prenatal message, a peds message, a cancer message, etc., and then see who I heard back from. And depending on who I heard back from, what specialties I was able to learn about, would then, I guess I'd, like, reassess, be like, all right, I got 2 cancer interviews, now I really need to try to get a peds one. And so I'd send maybe, like, 2 or 3 messages just to pediatric genetic counselors or things like that. Yeah, and then, yeah, I just, again, wrote when I sent them, if I was able to interview them. So, that is Discord. I got a decent amount from Discord, but I also got a decent amount of no responses or late responses, possibly because of the friend request thing, possibly just because they were busy and not interested, and that's okay. So then the other place that you can go to for informational interviews, which you'll also hear other people talk about, is the NSGC website. Hold on, I'm trying to move. Literally just nsgc.org. If you go to this website, you can scroll down a little bit and you will see this yellow Find a Genetic Counselor button. You'll click on that. You're going to scroll to this part where it says, if you are a student, etc., 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 click here. You are hopefully going to be a student. You're going to click here. And then basically you can search for providers based on where you live or what their specialty are, or a combination of both. And so I used the Discord was mostly I did phone and video informational interviews. The NSGC website is actually a really good opportunity to potentially get in-person interviews. And so I tried to look for like things in like the surrounding states for where I live in or close to my town or things like that, so that I can maybe get a chance to like sit in person with somebody, see their office, see the hospital setting, see the workplace. I feel like it gives you a different perspective potentially. This is also, I would say, somewhere where you could reach out more for shadowing. So on the Discord directory, it only says, are you willing to do informational interviews? There's not really an option for shadowing because it's like an online community. People are from all over the country. But if you do this based on where you live, in your like cold message, you can also add like, are you willing to do, or is shadowing an option? Are you willing to do informational interviews and or shadowing kind of thing? So let's say that you're from the Philadelphia area. You can go to Pennsylvania. And so from here, you can either like just do, here's the area. You can scroll down. I am interested in contacting a genetic counselor about the profession. This is going to preface people that are open to student contact. You'll click yes. And then you can click search from here. Or let's say you did the Discord stuff and you got a bunch of cancer interviews, a bunch of pediatric interviews, but you're really missing prenatal. You can go through this primary work. Oh, wait, I lied. You can go through this types of specializations and search for prenatal. You'll click on that. Then you can scroll, make sure that you still have yes for students and search. And then you'll have a bunch of genetic counselors pop up here. So if we start at the top with Brile, we can do more information, and we'll see, so they see patients in Pennsylvania. Here are all their different specialties. Oh, go Brile. And then here's the thing that you're looking for. Student contact welcome. Yes. So they are open to talking with students. They're open to receiving emails and potential inquiries about things from students. And so, yeah, you can, again, I spent like a day, not a day, I keep exaggerating. I spent like an hour or so, like, going through these, looking for, so yeah, if we go back to my Notion page, you'll see that I have, like, in the Philly area, Delaware area, New Jersey, and I just went through and made a note of what their name was, what their different specialties were, just to kind of get an idea of people that were in the Philadelphia area. Oh, shoot, sorry. Yeah, so that's the second place, and then it's very similar process with the cold emailing. Hi, so-and-so, I saw that you're open to student contact from the NSGC website. Tell them, yeah, like, I'm a soon-to-be applicant, I'm thinking about genetic counseling, I would really like to learn more about prenatal genetic counseling, or I would really love the opportunity to talk, or I would love the opportunity to shadow and see what a day in the life is. Like, is this something that you are open to, that's a possibility, things like that. And then, oh yeah, when we go back to the more info, they'll usually have, oh, okay, so there's nothing here for Brile. Let me find, a lot of times they'll have like an email listed. Yep, so here we go. So for example, Satori, open to student contact, and then has an email that you can contact them at. And so I did a very similar thing, and I think in my subject line I just said like, inquiry about informational interview, or request for informational interview. Yeah, and so this is where I had asked for shadowing, and I had several that said due to like hospital policies or HIPAA or things like that, just shadowing wasn't really allowed at their hospital. Or I had a couple that were talking about how, like, in order to shadow, you would have to go through like all of the safety and regulatory training in order to like be allowed to work with patients. And so they had said something, I think this was somebody I was talking to that was from like Atlanticare, was saying that like if you're already an Atlanticare employee, like even if you work with patients or at the front desk or custodial, like whatever, like you've already done the training, then it'll be no problem to shadow. But since that wasn't an option. So depending on how like far into your journey you are, if you're looking for another job anyway, potentially getting a job at a hospital so you have those clearances could maybe streamline that and make it more likely for you to get shadowing. I don't quote me on that for sure. I'm not positive. That was just the one that I had talked to had mentioned that if in the future you ever happen to work here and want to shadow, that could possibly be made to happen. Yeah, so I reached out to a bunch of people on Discord, reached out to a bunch of people on or through the NSGC website, And yeah, I think it was really cool. So I think I was only able to get one in-person informational interview, but I feel like it was so valuable. Like, it was so cool to be in, I think it was at a cancer institute, to be like in the building, watching patients in the lobby, watching the front desk staff, like going back into the office of the genetic counselor, watching them interact with other healthcare providers, watching them interact with other people was super, super cool to see, like, in person. And it was also cool to, like, sit there and be like, this could be me. Like, I can picture myself behind your desk. I can picture myself walking through these halls. I feel like that was really empowering and really encouraging, and really important to, like, my sort of self-efficacy in terms of seeing myself in the field. It could also potentially have the opposite effect. Maybe you go in person, you're like, ooh, I don't really know if I could do this, or I don't really feel right, I feel kind of out of place, and that could tell you something else about maybe this isn't the right field for you. And so that was just, like, that was my experience from getting one in person. I think my other, like, 11 that I had were either on Zoom or a phone call. But I thought that it was so, so valuable, and so I would highly recommend trying to use NSGC website to find someone local to you that you can maybe go in person and get that kind of informational, like, even if you're not shadowing, just being in the hospital to have a conversation, or being in whatever cancer institute, whatever kind of private practice, just to be there, I think is so, so valuable. So I would highly recommend using that. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Again, I was just trying to, like, do this to stop procrastinating and stop avoiding it, so I didn't really do as much planning as I wanted to, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else of value that I want to share. I'll probably make another video that, like, goes into, like, how to conduct an informational interview, what kind of questions to ask, how I kept track of everything, how I organized everything, how I put things in my CV. But we're already kind of coming on, like, a half hour. And so, yeah, I wanted to do my best to show you where I searched for things and to encourage you to join the Discord, to explore the NSGC website, and to just put yourself out there. So many genetic counselors are so kind and so willing to help, and they really want to talk to future students, to future genetic counselors. And so pretty much, like, everybody that I talked to was so kind and so excited and so eager to share and answer all of my questions. And so I'm super, super grateful for that. And I wish that I had known that ahead of time, because I feel like, especially the first time I applied, I was so scared to ask for informational interviews that I pretty much entirely avoided it. Like, I didn't want to be a bother, I didn't want to be a burden. I'm sure that they had so many other busy, important things to be worrying about except talking to little old me, but that's just not the case. Like, they were so excited, so willing to make time, and I really did find that it was valuable. I was able to use a lot of the things that I talked about in informational interviews in my, like, grad school interview process. As I was interviewing with potential programs, I had a lot of them ask me questions about, you know, like, what was something that surprised you in an informational interview, or based on your informational interviews, what specialty would you like? Like, there was a lot of things that I was able to draw from that, or, like, how do you see the future, like, job market and things like that. And so I was able to use things that I pulled from conversations. But again, none of that matters if you don't do this first step of reaching out to people and initiating and trying to get the informational interviews. Again, always plug, see if they can do shadowing, but I am living proof. There are tons of other living proofs that you don't need shadowing to get into a program. You do need to have proof, though, that you have explored the fields and learned about the field and put yourself out there and really tried to just connect and gain more exposure. And yeah, so it'll ultimately, at the end, here's just like a little snippet of one of my CVs. So here's that genetic counseling exposure category I was talking about, and then the first thing that I had listed was informational interviews. And then I listed all of the lovely genetic counselors that I was able to talk to. So yeah, that's all I got for you today. Let me know how else I can be of service. Take care, and I hope to see you sooner than 3 or 4 weeks, or however long it took me to get this second video out. Cheers.